This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
It just might be the greatest sports franchise in the history of sports. A place where legends are made, and there's always something to talk about. Get ready to immerse yourself in pinstripes. Start spreading the news, hosted by Paul Semendinger and E.J. Fagan, a couple of doctors with a prescription for Yankee fever. And now, here's Dr. Paul Semendinger and Dr. E.J. Fagan. Get ready to start spreading the news.
Indeed, get ready to start spreading the news. Now, we are recorded. I am away this weekend. It is Labor Day. The Yankees are on at 8 p.m. tonight, and my special guest, my good friend Mike Whiteman, will be joining us in just a moment. But in order to accommodate all that we had to accommodate here on this Labor Day, we decided we would record this at about 7 p.m., and it's going to be a show probably coming in at about 45 minutes rather than an hour. EJ, as you know, is soon going to be a daddy. And so he is on paternity leave from the program for a number of weeks, maybe a month or two. We'll see. When EJ's ready to come back, he will be here. As you know, this program is always brought to you by Artemisia Publishing, a great independent traditional publisher who publishes out of New Mexico and has an unbelievable collection of great books, including the recently nominated for Best Memoir, 365.2, Going the Distance, A Runner's Journey. That was written by me, and that's the story of 2022, the year I ran every single day for a calendar year. So I just found out that it's up for an award, and so my fingers are crossed. It's a finalist, and that's exciting. But you know what's more exciting? Talking baseball with Mike Whiteman. And like, Mike, you're the best. Reading the book. There you go. You're awesome.
I mean, this is a real good book. This is a real good book. And I'm not just saying that. This is a really good book. I think I've told you before, I have a bad knee and have been really working through it to get back to running, in between good doctor, good PT, and some inspiration here. I am back to running again. So yeah, get the book.
You're doing great, and you're faster than me. You are, every time I look at your runs on Strava, you are burying my time. So I keep getting slower, and you keep getting faster. So
I don't know that I'm all that fast, but
I think in one of our texts you wrote, maybe I'm less slow or something like that.
I think that's yes, I am less slow than I was before.
Well, you're doing great, and it's always a pleasure to have you here. So the Yankees played a game yesterday. They were down 7-1 against the Cardinals in the rubber game of a 3-game weekend series. And the Yankees came back to tie it at 7. And then a couple of fly balls went over Juan Soto's head. Now, all year long on the blog, start spreading the news. Let's get that banner up. All year long, there have been debates about whether or not Juan Soto is a terrible defender, just a bad defender, an average defender, a slightly above defender. And then yesterday, a couple of balls go over his head. He did not look glamorous. A lot of people are blaming the loss on Juan Soto, and probably not unfairly. But so I was just going to begin by asking the question, what do you think of Juan Soto's defense? Is it great, bad? Is it indifferent? Does it matter? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, he's probably not a great fielder, but I don't think he's a terrible fielder. Last I looked at the numbers, I think the numbers actually had him maybe a hair better than average, if I recall. So, yeah, he's not making his money, so to speak, as a fielder. Of course, he is a generational offensive player and a generational hitter. And this might be understatement of the year, but even with maybe his not wonderful fielding, the Yankees are very blessed to have him on the roster right now. He brings so much more at bat that you can tolerate the fact that he is not a Gold Glover in right field. And I think by all, I mean, I don't watch him training or anything like that, but I think he cares about defense. This not everybody is. There is probably a skill and inherent skill and work ethic. Maybe he's just not meant to be a Gold Glove outfielder, but he has not been a major liability by any means out in the outfield. I think this is really the first time this year that he's really had major issues out there.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's a couple plays when you see it, well, he didn't get that one. But I think most of the time, how do you say this? I think Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, when he was playing out of position in center field last year, made a couple of really great running catches and stuff like that. Which sometimes the guys who are making the diving catches and things like that on ESPN were actually out of position and had to run down a ball to make a catch to make it look good. You know the old story about Joe DiMaggio. He never dove for a ball because he just always knew where to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so, does he look glamorous out there? And does he look a little bit awkward? Does he look glamorous? No. Does he look a little bit awkward? Yes. Has it cost the Yankees any games? Did it cost the Yankees the game yesterday? Maybe. But again, I think his offense is just so overwhelmingly great that sometimes you put up with bad defense or mediocre defense. I don't think Reggie was a fielder.
Reggie, going back, Ted Williams, and he's someone who he's compared to sometimes with stats. Ted Williams was not a particularly good defensive outfielder, but he wasn't a bad guy to have around in your lineup.
Correct. I would say that. Now, there's talk that Jason Dominguez will be in the Yankees outfield next year. They didn't call him up yet. There's going to be a question in the Tuesday discussion tomorrow about did the Yankees make the wrong decision and things like that. So that will be fun to read everybody's positions on that. But I don't even want to talk about this year yet. There's a sense that if he is healthy and has a good spring training, if not a good final month of 2024, if or when he's called up, that he would be the center fielder next year. And then I guess Judge would move to right and Soto, should he be re-signed, would be your left fielder. Is that how you would make the outfield next year, or would it look somewhat differently?
Boy, that's hard because there are pros and cons to all of them. I think if you would compare, I think Soto is probably the third best left fielder on the team. I think Dominguez and Judge, I think, would both play a better left field than Soto. But do you move Judge? And of course, he's a Gold Glove elite right fielder. Do you move Judge to left? I think Judge can handle left. But also, do you go right ahead and give center field to Dominguez? He's played center and left field. If I were to make that decision now, I might go into the season with Soto in right, Judge in center, Dominguez in left. Let Dominguez kind of push the situation. Let's see if Dominguez gets out in left field and he is just amazing out in left field, then maybe he goes and then he grabs center field and then maybe Judge goes to left. Left field isn't quite like center field, but left field in Yankee Stadium is a bit more challenging than I think left field in a lot of parks. So if you look at like some of the players the Yankees have put out in left field traditionally, I guess the more successful folks, sometimes they put some pretty bad guys in left field and they were exposed. But usually I think they have liked to try to get a decent fielder out in left field.
Yes.
So I would say, guessing today, Dominguez in left, Judge in center, Soto in right. But that could change.
What I like about your answer, Mike, is that it's an evolving type of answer, right? And so many people immediately say, well, this is what it should be, and this is what I would do. And yours, I think, is actually very balanced and smart. And it's sort of the way I look at a lot of players. Like, I've advocated for Anthony Volpe to just bat ninth and et cetera, right or wrong. That, I want people to slowly acclimate to the major leagues. And rather than saying to Dominguez, you're our center fielder, say, no, you're going to play left field. And if you perform and if it's great, maybe you force the issue this year. Maybe it's next year or the year after that we transfer you to center field. I love that answer. I think that's great.
No. And he's also just 21. So next year will be 22. So do you say to a 22-year-old who really hasn't played a full season yet, guess what? You're the center fielder. Bernie Williams floated around. Mickey Mantle floated around. Not to compare him to Mickey Mantle, but there is, rarely do you see someone just jump in and pick up a prime position like center field at a young age and then just run with it for their career. So
great point. All right. So we're at the beach and we had a full house over the weekend. The grandkids were here. All three of my sons, my daughter-in-law was here, and my in-laws, their grandparents, and my kids' grandparents, which are my in-laws, is to be clear. And one of my nephews and his girlfriend was here, and lots and lots of people in and out of the house. It was great. My nephew said to me, we were talking about the Yankees, and I don't know, the subject came up. Like, he said, I would never want to own a Major League Baseball team and whatever. It would be too much pressure and it would take all the joy out. And he goes, would you ever really want to own the Yankees? And I said, of course I would. If I own the Yankees, they'd win the World Series every year. No doubt about it. And, all that kind of fun, tongue-in-cheek type of humor. And he's like, well, if Juan Soto said to the Yankees, I'll accept whatever the number is. We don't have to argue over the number or debate the number because I don't think anybody really has any clue. We asked that a couple of weeks ago on the Tuesday discussion. But if he says, as part of the stipulation for bringing me back, I will sign for whatever that number is with the Yankees, but you have to name me co-captain, what would you do?
Oh, my.
Isn't that a great question?
That is a real great question. Oh man, boy, I just don't, captain of the Yankees. And I mean, to be, to credit Soto, Soto has been nothing but great. And by all means seems popular, plays the game the right way. But Aaron Judge is the captain. And, when you look at the history of the Yankees, and, folks seem to have had to earn the right to be captain. Judge has been around for a number of years. Jeter was around for a number of years, prior to, Mattingly, Thurman Munson. So I'm going to say no. Maybe I'll toss him a few more $1 million or something like that.
It's a great question. I said,
gosh.
I said, I'd call up Aaron Judge. I'd say, guess what? You have a partner.
That's what it might be. Yeah. What would you do?
Yeah, that's what I would do. I'd say, guess what, Mr. Judge? Now there's two captains. But you know what? There's the deeper question, though, of what that says. And this would never happen. This was just a hypothetical brought up by a person. But it really, you hear this sometimes. I remember I don't follow basketball, but, in the heyday of New York sports radio, you'd be listening or whatever. And Jason Kidd, when he was on the Nets, I don't know, wanted to have a say in who the new coach was going to be, et cetera. And there's definitely a fine line between giving that star player, that all of the accolades and all of the benefits and we're not going to hire somebody unless you agree to it. On one hand, they're employees, right? Like, you work for the Yankees. And if the best thing for the Yankees is to get Juan Soto and he just says, I want to be captain, then you almost say, well, all right. On the other hand, what does it say about the player? Like, I don't respect the guy who already is the captain, and I don't respect the process that it takes in the Yankees history to become captain. So I think the easy answer is, of course. I think when you get into some of those other nuanced things, it gets a little much more difficult.
It's kind of interesting because, most of us who work in non-baseball jobs, we want to have a say in the business, in the organization. We like it when our supervisors and our bosses come to us and they say, what do you think we should do? What do you think the policy is for this? How do you think we should handle this? So, we like that. Those of us, who are not, Major League Baseball players, it stands to reason that a Major League Baseball player might also appreciate that. So it is kind of a different time. You hear more and more about that, players giving input into things, and maybe back when you and I were growing up and, in like the 70s and the 80s, it was like the manager was king and the players came and they just did what they were told.
It's definitely a different world, 100%. So I asked you a really tough question. So let's go for an easier one.
Please.
Your favorite pizza topping, or if you would just have it plain, that counts.
I have become one. I love a lot of mushrooms.
Really? Wow.
Love
Okay.
a lot of mushrooms.
And if you were with someone who never had a mushroom in his life, I don't know, me, and we were ordering a pizza, and I said, "Oh no, what would you do next?"
Well, then I'd get a hoagie. No.
I like hoagies.
There you go. I like hoagies. Now that being said, I mean, mushrooms are my favorite. I've got nothing against pepperoni, and as I'm getting older, I'm trying to pick my spots with some of those not as healthy meats. But no, I mean, you could twist my arm in eating a pepperoni pizza, that's for sure.
Nice. All right, so we would agree on the pepperoni. That works.
We would be fine with pizza. You and I would be fine with pizza together. We would get through it.
I think we would easily. So this is a question that's come up a lot in recent days. I argued it. Andy Singer wrote about it. It's come up in other comments since last week. The Yankees have been an under 500 team since the middle of June. Since the beginning of June, they've been a 500 team. And of course, all of these things are, where do you want to start the line? I wrote an article the other day and I said, since the middle of 2022, they were a 500 team. They were basically a 500 team last year. And if you take away May and the beginning of June of this year, they're basically a 500 team. Right? I'm manipulating the data because I'm taking away when they were like unbeatable. But since the middle of June, the Yankees haven't played well. Well, that's obvious. They're under 500 by, I think, 7 games or something ridiculous. And yet they stay in first place, and they're one of the best teams in baseball, if not, at this exact moment, the best team in baseball. So is this just a bad year for baseball, that a team can play this awful for more than 2 months and still be one of the best teams? Or is it just that's the way the game is? Is this – there's my phone. Let me turn that off here. And what makes baseball – in 2024, what it is? It's just an average type of year. Everybody's just a mediocre team, or is it something different?
Yeah, I don't know, because on one hand, you want to say, well, gosh, maybe the talent level's up. Maybe everyone is so good that, no one is really, the reason why DJ LeMahieu is not playing well is because the pitching is so good. And I'm just kind of, pulling stuff out of the air with that. It seems to me that there have been a lot of injuries of really good players. And you think of folks like Acuna, you think of folks like Mike Trout, you think some of the really, really good players, even Motani can't pitch this year. So there's a lot of star power, I think. Cole, of course, missed a lot of time. So, there's been a lot of stars, who haven't had a full season's worth of work. So, the people replacing them obviously are not of that caliber.
That's an interesting point. No one has made that point. That part of the reason baseball seems mediocre this year is because there's a lot of stars who aren't playing. That's brilliant.
Who aren't playing. So But I mean, I get the feeling, when you look at the Yankees, when the Yankees lose, it isn't like they're playing like really nail biting games that we're all watching and we're all excited about. And all right, well, they lost because the other team was just better. The Yanks have had some ugly, ugly losses this year. So, that makes me lean more towards the mediocrity, that this is just a year in that there's just no really good teams. There are some good teams. The Yankees are a good team. They're not a great team. But the Yankees are in a group of about 12 teams. I was looking at, 12, 13 teams that could win the World Series this year. If you take a look at the six, the leaders in the division, I think just about everybody's got 70, mid 70s to low 80s wins. And, any one of those teams could run off, go on a run, just like someone like the Diamondbacks did last year and, get to the World Series. So I lean more towards the more mediocre than, everybody's really good at this point.
And I think your point about guys being injured so much is probably a big part of that. The great point. So if I were to ask this of EJ, he'd say, I'll take the field. He always says, I'll take the field. But what do you think? Are the Yankees, when this is all over, where do you see the Yankees finishing? Are they the world champs? Do they lose in the AL Championship Series? Do they lose in the playoffs? Do they not make the playoffs? Where do you see this all coming to a conclusion?
Well, I'm a Yankee fan and they're in first place, so I always think the Yankees are going to go all the way. But if they get to the first round and they go flat and lose, am I going to be stunned and surprised by that? No. So, put me in for the world, put me in for, for the championship, or at least the American League title. Frankly, I think the biggest problem they're going to have in the American League could be the Astros.
Again, right? Can't they just go away once and for all?
My word, yeah, they're just, you had thought that they did go away the way that they started. But so I'm going to make a bold but not very reliable prediction that the Yankees will make it to the World Series. And that they'll have a epic battle with the Dodgers.
Wow. And they'll win. That's what you're saying, they'll win?
Yeah, yes. That's what I'm going to go with.
I love it.
Betting no money
we need to get that revenge on the Dodgers since 1981. I'm still mad about that. I had youth group that night after the Yankees lost the World Series. And must have been a day game because I guess youth group would have been at like 7 p.m. unless I'm just remembering this all wrong as a kid. But I remember, as I recall, the Yankees losing. And then, I was very sad. I probably cried. And then, maybe 20 minutes, half hour later, my mom's like, come on. I'm like, where are we going? She goes, you have youth group. I'm like, the Yankees just lost the World Series. Why would I go to youth groups? Because you have to go to youth group. The two aren't related. To me, I couldn't understand how they weren't related.
Yeah. Well, they could have gone, because they had lost in 6. So did they go out west for Game 6? And
I kind of think they did.
And
you know what? Well, you know what? I'll look it up because I don't want to open too many tabs in case this overloads my computer. Yeah. And then we're because I do have a special tab up. And why don't we do that before we talk about some other Yankee things? I have 50 baseball trivia questions. It comes from a site called LWOS, Last Word on Sports, Baseball. And it says 50 of baseball trivia questions for a perfect games night. I don't know if I can get any of them. I don't know how hard they are. I just saw the title of the site, and I said, this could be fun for Mike and I. Unfortunately, the answers are right under the question, so I'm going to see the answers, but I'll let you know if I could have gotten it right, and I will be honest. Even if I say I could have gotten them all right, that means I really could have. I don't know how I don't know how impossible they are. But you can pick a number from 1 to 50, and I'll ask the question.
Let's go here. 7. We'll go Mickey Mantle. We'll go 7.
All right, number 7. It seems like it's in the category of legendary players and records. I would not have gotten this. Which player holds the record? It's not hard, but I wouldn't have gotten it. Which player holds the record for the most MVP awards?
Is that Barry Bonds?
You are correct. Bing, bing, bing. Mike
Okay,
Whiteman. We
okay.
did this alphabet game months ago, and you won. I shouldn't do these things when we do this together, because you always beat me. And we played a Stratomatic game 2 different times. A series, you won those. All right, we're gonna have to start doing questions like, "Where was I in 1984?" And I have no idea. Well, good. I'll get those right. All right, let's do another one. We'll do a couple of these. You're 1 for 1. You pick a number between 1 and 50.
Okay.
And it can't be number
Let's see
7.
here. Let's go with Greg Nettles, number 9.
Number 9. Who holds the record? I think I would have gotten this wrong. For the MVP one, I would have said Yogi Berra and Roy Campanella, because each won 3. I don't know why I wouldn't have thought of Barry Bonds. But anyway, which player holds the record for the most Cy Young awards?
Steve Carlton won a number of them. Greg Maddux won a couple. Roger Clemens won a few. No one. Steve Carlton.
Good. You should have stayed with Roger Clemens. A good guess. Clemens was correct. I would have said Randy Johnson. So you get at least half credit. You pulled his name up. One more.
Let's see here. Let's go 44. Let's go with Reggie.
Oh, go to Reggie. I have to scroll down a little bit here. The category is franchise facts and figures. This doesn't even make any sense. All right. You know what? When they put together questions online, sometimes like there is no fact checker. So this almost reminds me of a Saturday Night Live skit. I'm telling you right now, if you get this correct, there's no rational reason why you would even get this correct. It would make no sense to get this correct. So you're going to get it wrong because it makes no sense. But anyway, here it is, number 44. I should have done these, looked at them all before we did this. But anyway, what is the team based in Colorado?
The Rockies.
Yeah, well, you would think that, but according to the website, it says answer Don Baylor. So we're gonna move on. Maybe we'll do a couple of questions more later.
Maybe the Broncos or something like that.
Yeah. Don Baylor. What baseball team
did
plays?
He manage them? Did he manage them?
I think he did.
Okay. Maybe
this actually reminds me. Out of the blue, my first day at college, I went to college in Wilkes-Barre, PA, King's College, and you're meeting all the new kids, and I didn't know much about central Pennsylvania and the names of the towns and all that. And so I'm meeting a kid and I go, "Hey, yeah, blah, blah, blah. What are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. Where are you from?" And the kid goes, "Jim Thorpe." And I'm like, "Interesting. Red Grange, Joe Theismann, Joe Namath. But where are you from?" He's like, "Jim Thorpe." Like, okay, this kid is just going to keep telling me football. Jim Thorpe, like he was in the Olympics. Carl Lewis. All right. Like, and then it turns out, of course, that there's a town in Pennsylvania named Jim Thorpe.
The first time I heard that, it's like, yeah, same thing. I'm like, okay, yeah, but where? Like Jim Thorpe. Where?
Like, what are you talking about? You live in Jim Thorpe.
Funny thing is that I know folks who like go up to Jim Thorpe and they love it there. They said it's like a beautiful destination for the fall.
Really?
The foliage and like the fall foliage, and it's a lot of shops, a lot of restaurants. I had just heard that just over the past year that folks, "Oh, Mike, you have to get up to Jim Thorpe sometime," and so now I know that that it's a place, but I looked up. Looks like an interesting place.
Well, maybe there's a place in Colorado called Don Baylor. I mean,
maybe there is.
crazier things have happened. All right. Austin Wells, when he plays, seems to perform. There was this sense that when Jose Trevino came back, he would be the bench catcher, but at least until a few days ago, Aaron Boone was basically platooning the two guys, even though he basically gave the indication that Austin Wells would continue to be the regular catcher. So if you were running the Yankees, would you continue the platoon? Would Austin Wells be your catcher? And if Austin Wells is your catcher, how many games a week would you play him if you're playing 6 games? Do you play 5 out of 6, 4 out of 6, or whatever? What's your thought on how the Yankees should handle their catching?
Yeah, Wells is my guy, and
I agree.
I would catch him the majority. The thing about it is that he really is or has not been a good hitter against lefties. And so, if you're running into a really nasty lefty, then I might bring out Trevino for that. But I mean, I would like to see Wells start, 5 out of every 7 games or something like that would be my, and, if you're running into a lefty, who's got a 6.5 earned run average or something like that, put in Wells for that. But, you run into a really nasty lefty. I would consider Trevino. To me right now is, Boone should be putting out the lineup best to win that game. And so I think more often than not, Wells is the better catcher. I think every so often, it might make sense to have Trevino in there. But I would say, Wells is my guy. And I think next year, it's interesting. I was looking back at how the Yankees broke in Jorge Posada and how him and Girardi really kind of split their time. And that was, I think, 99. And in 2000, the Yankees let Girardi go, and they picked up a guy who clearly was not going to be a threat to Posada and basically told him, you are it now. You are the catcher. And so that's what I'd like to see the Yankees do next year. I think, wish Trevino well and move him on, and, bring in Eric Kratz or, someone, like a real true backup. And
Yep.
Yep.
I agree 100%. So if you were running the Yankees, would Alex Verdugo be a Yankee in 2025?
No.
Me neither.
No.
If you were running the Yankees, the other day I was flipping the channels. I don't watch a lot of TV, and you remember the old show, The Match Game? That was running.
I do.
I mean, that's just bad TV, but I was mesmerized for a little bit. I'm like, what is this? Oh, I watched it. My grandfather watched it. So I remember watching it with my grandfather, and I didn't get it at all back then. And I've got to be honest, I didn't really get it much anyway, but I feel like I'm being a game show host. If you were the Yankees, would Gleyber Torres be a Yankee in 2025?
Probably not. If Gleyber wanted to sign a 1-year, contract, I would never say never. But I mean, my suspicion is that Gleyber is going to look for a longer term deal, as he should, as I probably would if I were in that position. But if Gleyber called me up and said, Mike, it was just a bad year, but give me 1 more year. And I think, at a reasonable rate, I might think about it, but most likely, probably not.
I would not bring him back, and I would move Jazz Chisholm to second base, which is where I'd much prefer him than third base.
That's true. I had not thought about that, but yeah.
we talked about the Yankees being mediocre. Part of that might be that Garrett Cole was out for half a year, but he's been back and they've been mediocre since he's been back. But part of that could be growing pains. I mean, there's always a reason or at least a rationale. Anthony Rizzo's been out. DJ LeMahieu is now old, et cetera, et cetera. Did the Yankees make a mistake as they built this team heading into the season? And if so, what was their biggest mistake heading into or for 2024?
I think the big thing that left me lacking about the offseason was the pitching. I really felt, they had gone after Yamamoto and they didn't get him. They settled for Stroman. I think Stroman's been fine. Stroman wasn't going to be an ace, wasn't going to be number 2. Stroman's he does just fine as number 3, number 4. I would have liked to have seen them get another really good pitcher. Just a real solid number 2 who could become the number 1 if, say, Cole was out. And of course, that's what happened. If you look at, the great Yankee teams, and go back to like the 90s, and goodness, you had, any number of folks who could have been considered the ace. You had Pettit, you had Cone, El Duque, and Clemens, Wells. So, there was a lot of depth of quality starting pitching. And the Yankees, I felt like really kind of went into it into the season, kind of keeping the fingers crossed. I would have considered getting another starter.
Me too. I wanted Corbin Burns.
Corbin Burns would have been great. Corbin Burns would have been great.
And, do you agree with me on this? I would have traded. Now, of course, I think now I'm right because I don't think he had a good year this year. He struck out like 1,000 times, Spencer Jones, but he was all of the rage. And let me just be fair here, but before he became a Yankee shortstop, if this were 2024 and the same hype there was about a guy named Derek Jeter, and I could have traded him for Corbin Burns, I would have done it. I would, but I would have been wrong if I did that. But I would have traded the double-A guy for an ace starting pitcher. I would do that every day of the week. I would have traded Jason Dominguez for him. I'm always a fan of get the known talent, and I'll take my risks with the unknown talent. But would you have? So I would have traded Spencer Jones, but
I would have. And just think of kind of the hype, so to speak. The buzz of having Soto and Corbin Burns on the team. And I still think good teams win with starting pitching. Now, of course, the game isn't like it was even 20, 25 years ago, but if you can have a good starting pitcher who can consistently give you, pushing 7 innings, that's a big deal. That's a big deal now. And I think the Yankees have been burnt somewhat by starters not giving them a ton of innings, a ton of distance, and then they're turning games over to the bullpen that's been made up basically of like a lot of bargain basement shopping. So I think having another starter, I think would take the pressure off of the bullpen. And I don't think we'd be as concerned about the bullpen, perhaps, if you had starters. Like the other night, Stroman went 7 innings, and that was like a huge deal. That like Stroman hit set, but what it did was it just set them up well. They only needed a couple of relief pitchers. They could go with the high leverage guys, and the Yankees won.
Yeah, you are a man of brilliance, because I agree with you again.
I don't hear that a whole lot around here, but
you need to, right? And,
I'm going to make my family watch this. And
tell them at the 39-minute and 50-second. And just in case they have a little trouble getting to the right point on that, it will say at the 40-minute part, Mike Whiteman is brilliant. All right. So this way you can
And
have
a
that.
doctor said that. That was said by a doctor.
That was said
That
by
has to be right.
Doctor
Has to be
Dr.
right.
Paul Semendinger. Yes, indeed. All right, so you went to an auction today, and there was a Judge and Soto item that went for over $1,000, which is crazy. But you did win 2 items. What'd you get?
I did. Yeah, there's an auction around here that supports hospice care, and we have kind of a special place in our heart because they have helped out family members of ours. So we like to support them, and they have a great sports auction. So I just kind of go and kind of look for some treasures there. I don't spend a lot of money on memorabilia, especially now that I've got kids that have been older and, you got tuition and weddings and so forth. But every now and then I like to try to find something, and I like to find interesting things. There were a few Yankee items up there that, like I said, the Judge and Soto autograph plaque went over $1,000. That was way out of my price range, but I was pretty excited. I found a Bobby Durr, a signed Bobby Durr postcard, Hall of Fame plaque, and so that's kind of fun. Bobby Durr, of course, was played for the Red Sox for a number of years. Was a very good second baseman, so that was fun to find. And then and it is interesting because I didn't go into this thinking I was going to get a Denny McLain autograph, but I actually got a Denny McLain autograph. I think this might have gone for like $30 or something like that, which is probably more than I planned to spend. But I like you, I just really like baseball history, and Denny McLain was, of course, the last person who has won 30 games. Probably will be the last one to ever win 31 games. Certainly had a lot of off-season problems. I mean, off the field problems. But boy, he was really good in the late 60s for the Detroit Tigers. So yeah, I did that.
2 great finds.
Yeah, I did that. I bid on some signed baseballs. Didn't get them. But it's just, I said, fun to get some treasures. Fun to support a good cause. And so, yeah, just another thing I can put on a shelf here. So,
yeah, that's fun. You have got a great shelf, and when you look in the background, all sorts of great stuff. So, is this auction always during Labor Day weekend?
It is.
Yeah, that's a bummer. I'd say I'd come out, but we always have family. And so I guess we'll have to find a different thing that we could find to go do together like that, because that sounds like fun. I would enjoy that. All right, here we have time for 2 more trivia questions. Oh. You can ask the question 1 to 50, and if it's a weird question, I will let you know.
All righty. Let's see here. Let's go. Derek Jeter, number 2.
Number 2. The second question in the survey is Major League Baseball history. Which team holds the highest all-time win-loss percentage in MLB history?
I'm going to guess the New York Yankees.
That is correct, with a .569 percentage. Whenever this article came out, looks like it came out on May 22nd, 2024, if the date is correct. And so one last question. You've gotten most of these except the one that didn't make any sense.
Let's see. Joe DiMaggio, number 5.
Number 5, staying with the low numbers. Maybe it's better there. Which country produces more Major League players per capita than any other country in the world?
Oh, goodness. Would it be the Dominican Republic?
That's what would have been my guess, but they're saying Caraco.
Oh, okay.
So who knows?
Yeah.
They also said Don Baylor's a team. So Mike, I want to thank you. This is always fun. You'll be back hopefully again in a couple of weeks, maybe even next week. I'll send a thing out. I'm going to have a better schedule. As you know, once this week is over, I have some things up in the air here about other opportunities. Nothing with writing or anything like that, but some people want me to work. I'm retired, but they're asking me to come out of the bullpen, and I'm working on the intricacies of all that. So I'll have a better sense of my schedule next Monday. But thank you for being on with us. I wish everybody a happy Labor Day night, and I'll be back Saturday morning with the Dr. Sem Show. Then we'll be right back here again Monday night at 9 p.m. Whether it's recorded or not, it's still worth your time. Have yourselves a great day. Once again, thank you to Mike Whiteman. Have a great night, everyone. This has been the Start Spreading the News.